Hi, welcome back to the vlog of Inward Markings. The website's inwardmarkings.com. If you go there, you'll see the link for the YouTube channel if you want to watch the previous 33 chapters. This is chapter 34. Ideally, you need to watch... Oh, there's another plane right there. Ideally, you need to watch the thing chronologically to understand this one in the best way possible. So today I'm going to talk about found objects. So post September 2018, when that occurrence happened in that restaurant, and then everything changed further, found objects became part of the synchronicities and I guess universal signs that I received, and they would occur at times that were resonant with my thinking, and they would also occur, the nature of what I would find would also resonate with where I was at, and supported me to like continue what I was doing. Oh, another plane, like right there. The thing is, I don't see the planes as they approach or as they fly away. I just happen to look up and they're directly in my sight line, because typically I've got headphones on, and anyway, so I'm just going to provide, like, in terms of what I show today, it's just a selection of them, because as I've said throughout this vlog, I didn't I'm doing a lot in hindsight because I didn't understand the proper significance at the time. So just some examples of ones that I don't have with me today, just for the sake of ease. I found 4 skateboards, and that was part of this. I mean, that resonated with where I was at, because skateboarding is a big part of my life, and was especially so like in the period after arriving back in Melbourne. And that then supported what I was doing regarding the skateboarding aspect of Inward Markings. A bike that I found literally like 2 or 3 days after I was thinking it would be handy to have a bike for certain things that I needed to do. And this one was like all black and just like leaning in a bush, and I still have it, and it just look, think what you want, but it resonated so strongly, it just felt important to take it. The phone that I'm filming this on also appeared at a tram stop, actually. I'm not going to go into the full details of that discovery, but it was the second occurrence in, like, within a week where a phone presented itself, and it was so strongly resonant as to like the way it presented itself. Both times being like unattached to an owner, and in decent condition. The first one actually had a charger with it, but I denied that one. I thought, see, this is the thing, for most of the time that I'm talking about in this vlog, I did not have a smartphone, so I wasn't documenting as much. Like, I was taking photos, but my documentation was of a much lower scale than what it has been since getting one. And between mid 2018 and September 2018, so between the kind of second and third significant kind of changes, the first one being my arrival back in Melbourne, I left the house and realised that I needed $12 exactly. I can't remember what it was for now, but it was at the end of one of my walks and heading to the supermarket. For some reason, $12 was the amount that I needed, and I found $2 in my pocket that I'd forgotten about. It was in my little hip pocket, and just decided that I'd just make do with that. That's all I had. And then, like, literally on the street on the way to the supermarket that leads to the back kind of rear entrance, a $10 note was on the ground. I'll talk about money in another vlog, but money has continually appeared, mostly coins, as I've post-September, and at resonant times. What else? Look, there's more. Just for, like, I really kind of wish that I'd known what was happening as it was happening, because I think I would have, it would have been a better documentation process. But I think what I'll provide today will be enough to provide an insight into kind of the relevance of it. So speaking of money, one of the, I think it was the first coin that I found post-September. So there was money obviously before that, but post-September, very early in the morning in an area I rarely go to, but was there just doing some art stuff. And I arrived at a fairly busy intersection and looked down, and as always, the money that I find is always directly in my path. So I'm not searching for it. I'm actually just doing my own thing. I'm not even thinking about, money, and certainly not finding money. And I don't need to look like in the distance or anything like that. It's always directly in my path. And because I'm kind of paying attention to where I'm at, or listening to stuff through my headphones, at the time I found this, I didn't have a smartphone at that point, so there wasn't even music. But I looked down, and this $2 coin was directly in my path, and it was on like the curb cut and just at the base of it. And mostly they've been 5-cent coins and 10-cent coins, but this was, the first find happened to be, post-September, happened to be a $2 coin. And what's particularly interesting about this $2 coin, which the significance of it has only sort of transpired over time, but it's a special commemorative coin for something war related, and it has the words on it, "Eternal Flame." And what was also occurring around this time is when I'd wake up early in the morning, I would frequently look up and see hot air balloons directly in my sight line, like unexpectedly. I wasn't like going out searching for hot air balloons. I just happened to turn or be in a particular position or be on a hill waiting for the sunset, and then would turn and the hot air balloons would be there. So this idea, this kind of imagery of flames and words like flame and the word flame, etc., became synchronistically reoccurring post-September, and it still occurs today. So that the Eternal Flame coin kind of was like laid the foundation for what would then occur post-September over time, and continues to occur. I also found this casino chip, which has 2 1s on it, interestingly, in terms of the numerological significance. Again, directly in my path, I was walking down the middle of the tram lines, which I do at times. And the thing about this 1-1 casino chip is that it's from the Adelaide Casino. And this was at a time when I was engaging with this person named Adelaide in relation to the brand. But I was trying to negotiate with her to help me out with one of the photos for the brand that is skateboarding related, and I was unsure about how that was progressing, and I wasn't getting email replies, and I was unsure about whether I should continue engaging with her. Like I wasn't relying on that, but it just felt like the right thing to do given synchronicities I had with her in terms of meeting her in places. But then when I saw this chip, I felt supported to continue engaging with her, and that didn't turn out to be problematic. And for some reason, it was it just became the right thing to do. And Adelaide didn't assist with that photo, but someone who turned out to be a much better fit did. But I think the universe needed me to continue engaging with Adelaide for another reason, which I won't talk about today. Playing cards have been... This is one of them. There have been others. And the Queen of Hearts in songs and actual cards, also graffiti, became a recurring symbol post September 2018. But the one I have with me today is an Ace of Hearts that I found. But just the love heart, I spoke about the love heart, like tree formation at Deep Rock. But yeah, just this feeling of universal love, and then that was supported by synchronicities and found objects where the heart became part of that. Numbers, like, and this occurred at the time, finding this 4 occurred at the time when numerology became very significant and continues to be so. And so, finding that, again, all of these are directly in my path. I don't go searching for found objects. They always appear directly in my path. And now they resonate with not only my thinking, but the music that I'm listening to. But pre-smartphone, it was just resonant with my thinking and things that were happening in my life at that time. Also, this full moon card. The moon has been significant, like pre 2018. I spoke in an earlier chapter of that experience with the moon in Bangkok, and full moon cycles and the significance of particular full moons have been influential throughout this whole period that I'm discussing in this vlog. And so finding that image, I can't remember what I was thinking at the time, but it would have been, this would have supported what I was thinking and doing. This card, again with numerology, double sixes, but it's a playing card from a game, and it's got Berserker on it. And I'd heard that, I was familiar with that term, but I'd forgotten what it meant. And I found it directly in my path on the way to the library, so I was able to search for Berserker when I got there. And they're, fearless warriors who go into like this trance-like state, so that they, on the battlefield they don't fear anything, and literally are like the ultimate warrior, if you like, or the ultimate soldier. And so that, for me, at that time, strongly resonated in terms of like sort of bits, elements of doubt that I was experiencing, and it just, it supported me to become fearless in the way forward. And more recently, like actually after the launch of the brand, I'd seen a t-shirt for the Stranger Things show appear synchronistically at that restaurant that I had the September experience in. And then Taylor Swift actually did a playlist for Apple Music that had songs that were related to the new series of Stranger Things, or a song. And I was already thinking about Stranger Things like pre-Melbourne, because I'd seen so much press about it on the internet. And then seeing that t-shirt, overhearing conversations and having conversations with people about it, and then that song appearing on Taylor Swift's playlist. And also, because it was on Taylor Swift's playlist, it could have been another artist and I wouldn't have thought too much of it, but because it came through Taylor Swift, it was especially resonant based on what I've talked about so far, and we'll talk about in a future vlog. And once walking somewhere just in my local area, where I spend the most time. I need to take a sudden detour to just check some stuff in the laneway. And then, so I was walking on an unplanned route, and this Stranger Things patch appeared like directly in my path. Again, kind of at the base of a curb cut after I turned a corner. It was just completely unexpected. It was just like sitting on the ground there, but it occurred like in the immediate period after I first discovered that related song on Taylor Swift's playlist. So it was the timing, like the placement. Yeah, it wasn't just about finding this patch, and then there were other synchronicities that happened afterward that are related. But this also spurred me on to actually finally watch the first series. I haven't gotten beyond that. But in terms of like the lyrics of that song on the playlist and stuff in content and topics kind of covered in Stranger Things, yeah, again resonant in terms of what I was experiencing, not just those things that I discussed, like the song and so forth. And then finally, on I think it was Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas. There's like a knickknacks, like an oddities. I think is that the accurate term? Just like antique items and stuff like that, but not a second-hand store and not like a thrift shop. It was like just like weird knickknacks, but kind of like in an, I don't know what you'd call that, like a curiosity shop, or kind of like with a hipster or an artsy kind of vibe to it. But it's a cool shop. But it was resonant like post-September because it's on the same street as that restaurant, and I would walk past it and there'd be like animal imagery, like tigers, owls, and like mystical stuff like in the window. It was tasteful stuff and interesting stuff. It wasn't like you could see that the person behind it is genuinely wanting to present like interesting stuff that you can't get many places. And that that would be of wasn't flimsy, and it was like, yeah, genuinely interesting objects, and I just finally, like, I'd walk past the display window a lot and decide to finally go in there on one of those days. And it turns out that on that, the shop was actually closing the day after. And there was one guy in there, pretty sure he's the sole owner, like in his late 40s and maybe early 50s. Lovely guy. And I was having a look around, and at that time I was just happy, I did a lot of like exploring because I was getting these continual like signs from the universe. Like I'd like to, and I still do that. I still do it actually. Like just like visit unfamiliar places or go into stores and just see what kind of stuff appears and whether it resonates. And so in line with numerology, astrology, tarot, a lot of this metaphysical, I guess you'd call them, and spiritual discussions and videos and topics were a big part of my experience post-September, and I was doing a lot of reading and research into that, and was subscribing to like channels for tarot readings and astrology forecasts and so forth. because while that has kind of appeared in my life previously, post-September, it just felt like I was trying to come to terms with what had occurred in my life thus far. I went down that route because that's what resonated strongly, and it connected with sort of glimpses that I'd had previously throughout my whole life. And so on the ground of the store on that day was a really it just struck me because they were old, hand done, and I hadn't seen anything like them before, but these large, like rectangular steel I guess you'd call them, well, this is it, right? So they're things that you hang up, but they're not like in a frame. They're made of like, or maybe it's aluminium, and it's been like scanned onto the steel, but the writing and the art looks very much like it's hand done, and they were of the star signs, but and they have the star sign at the top with the dates, and then like words that are salient to each star sign, just single words like dotted all over it with like an imagery, with an image in the middle. And it wasn't for all the star signs though. There was only a selection of them, and there was, I think it was like 4 or 5. And so, just to provide a bit of background, so the reason why the date of the launch became the 6th of June is because the numbers 6 and 9, whether it be 96 or 69, became especially resonant through synchronistic experiences post-September. And probably the two most significant parts of that, the guy at the service station or the fuel stop where I'd get coffee, who I ended up having long discussions with. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in a previous vlog, but he was like, he spoke about the woman Shannon who would bring in crystals, etc. He was like the bouncer at the front of that place, who just resonated with the things that I would bring up, and I ended up having discussions within that immediate period following the September experience. It was helpful because I was trying to work out what the fuck had gone on, and obviously it's not something that you can just talk about with anyone, and certainly my family wasn't an option, and even friends, and I tried with a couple of kind of interactions with friends, but it just, as you can imagine. But the strange thing was, people didn't like ask for specifics. I don't know why. Like, if someone was coming to me with that kind of intensity and using particular language, I'd be like, at the very least, my curiosity would be sparked, and I'd be probing further. But people, I don't know what it was, but I found this just even with interactions I had with just acquaintances and people I'd meet. People just wouldn't ask. Like, it's almost like they made up their mind based on something really superficial, and so it would be dismissive and wouldn't bother asking anything. And I just leave it at that. I wouldn't say to people, "Oh, don't you want to know?" It was just, but yeah, in hindsight, it does strike me as strange, because I think even on a basic level, I would ask the really basic question of, "Oh, just can you explain what you mean? But for some reason, I don't know, maybe people are like fearful or insecure about looking dumb, so they don't want someone explaining stuff to them in the event they don't know how to respond or have to admit, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, but yeah, there's certainly worse things than saying I don't know. So that guy at the fuel stop revealed to me that he's a Gemini and he's born on the 6th of June. That's his birthday. And so it was after actually that encounter, because there'd been enough synchronicities for me to decide that the launch would be the 6th of June. But then I eventually found out, I can't remember what brought it up exactly, but that particular staff member at the restaurant, who every time she would come into my proximity, the already intense feelings would become even more intense, and she became like my point of contact after returning there weekly over the subsequent months. She revealed to me that she is a Gemini as well. So two kind of, I guess, well, she was the most significant, but two influential people post-September, both were Geminis. And the thing about this box, the four or five star signs that were in there, one's Gemini, but the other 3 or 4, all of the traits, all of the attributes that are listed on the, whatever you'd call these things, on the hangings, were all negative. I don't understand like why that was the case, like why you would want to manufacture these things and try to sell them with negative traits on them. Like, I don't know who would want to hang that up, like, unless maybe they really hated someone or disliked someone with that star sign and just wanted to hang it up as for fun. But the Gemini one, and I even asked the guy at the store, why does the Gemini one have all positive attributes, but the other 3 or 4, they all have negative attributes of those star signs? This is really strange. And he was like, oh, he didn't really screw up. He was just like, lighthearted about it. He just said, like, without even thinking, oh, the guy who designed it probably, or the person who designed it probably was probably a Gemini. Anyway, it's the strangest thing. And so I walked away with the Gemini one. But the thing about, so the traits, Gemini, and in brackets is the twins. Obviously the Gemini is the star sign of the twins, just like Pisces, the fish, etc. And so traits include eloquent, quick-witted, savvy, imaginative, adaptable, communicative, and then at the bottom it's got written twice the fun. And these were attributes that that resonated in terms of the experience that I'd had with that staff member at that restaurant. And so that formed part of the resonance as well. And but the reason I walked away with this is that I didn't actually have money on me at the time when I was at the store. And I said to the guy, oh, can I come in tomorrow with some money and buy this? Can you set aside for me? And that's when I found out that the store was actually closing the next day. He said, oh, look, no, we're closing tomorrow for good. So, yeah, it's either today or nothing. And then, like, after a few seconds, he went, oh, actually, you know what? Just take it. And he gave it to me. And I walked out the store with it that day and was really stoked about it, and had it, like, leaned against the wall right next to where I'd kind of do my stuff and plan my stuff in my room, and it became an inspiration for me. But at that time I was associating it solely with the staff member at that restaurant, because that's the only way I could kind of make sense of what had happened and what was continuing to happen, because of the connection that she represented, yeah. So yeah, it was so strange that those hangings. Yes, it's so funny because all of these are positive attributes, and but the other three, and it just so happened to be the Gemini one. The other three are all. It was highly unusual. And I've just looked up, and like directly in my sightline are shoes hanging from the power lines, which were also part of synchronicities, but in the area where I live. But here they are again. But literally, you could draw a straight line between like the middle of my chest and those shoes. And I didn't see those shoes when I arrived. I've just seen them then as I've looked up. But what I did see when I first arrived here is another 31. Like literally again, directly in my sightline, you could draw a straight line. And there we go. This video is now just over 31 minutes long. Okay, see ya.